Okay, we'll wait a few minutes for those to log on. Good afternoon. I'm Steve Mazikane. This is the Steve Mazikane Podcast. We will just wait 1 second here. I'm waiting for some information to come in. Whether it comes in or not, I'm not quite sure, but we'll start talking about that in a second. It's the first day of our shortened week. To come in, whether it comes in or not, I'm not quite sure, but we'll start talking about that in a second. All right, so good afternoon, Justin. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you to those that are logging in. It is Monday, November 23rd, just a few days before Thanksgiving. Glad to be here, and we'll be live tonight. We'll be live tomorrow, and probably that's it for the week. Friday doesn't really make sense. Wednesday doesn't really make sense, so we'll likely be today and tomorrow, and then next week we'll go back to normal 4 o'clock, as many days as we can, Monday through Thursday. The topics for today, we'll talk about if you don't love the... Oh, listen, yeah, behind me is let me move the other way, is my Christmas tree. That is, to those that know, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not religious in any way, but it just was like, you know what, to hell with it. Let me get a Christmas tree. And it's the first Christmas tree I've ever had. I've never had a Christmas tree. I did a few years if I happened to be kind of dating somebody who was, got a Christmas tree or had kids, especially. We went and got them a couple times, but I've never gotten a Christmas tree for my own place. So that's my first Christmas tree. It was $25 from Walmart. It took me 5 minutes to buy. Except that at first, the first one I grabbed was the colored lights, and I like the white lights better. But no, it's kind of a cool feeling. Last night I went out to dinner and I came back and the whole house was dark except for that tree. And it was just like, I have no illusions of God or religion or any of that stuff, but there's something comforting about that white light in their winter tree, whatever. I actually, and this is a true story, when I got the tree back up, I set it up. The first thing I Googled afterward was, how does an atheist decorate a Christmas tree? And there was there's things like Star Trek and stuff on there. But so I think I'll leave it that way. If you have ideas for what to put on the top, or a little, what do they call those things that you hang on a tree? Ornaments or whatever. Those, I'm not going to do the little scenes of Jesus and all that religious crap, but if there's something interesting that goes on the top, great. And if you have ideas, I'd be glad to look at those. I bought lights that can switch from white to color lights. Listen, it's 25. This is how bad it was yesterday. Okay. My first tree, ornaments. Okay. My first tree, it came in these 3 portions. I put the 3 portions together. I plugged it in and only the bottom row of lights went on. I was like, what the hell is that? I didn't realize you had to plug in something else. And then I took a picture of the tree and I posted it on Facebook as my first tree. And then I didn't realize that you can move the branches in place. So afterwards, I'm like, there's these huge holes. The sad part is I thought to myself, this looks like Brantford's Christmas tree. Like, it's that messed up. Brantford's Christmas tree is awful. So on the town green. So I then realized afterwards, I read the instructions. On putting together a Christmas tree. I could adjust the branches so it looks a little more balanced now. So if you have ideas, I'd be glad to post those and add them. Just for me personally, leave the religious stuff out. It's just not my thing. But in any event, to those following the news, I know it's kind of slow right now. It seems that the Trump thing is kind of going away. I know he's fighting everything, but it doesn't really seem like there's a lot of merit there. I think most, even Republicans, have kind of said, all right, let's move on. Let's move on with Biden. So be it. But if you were wondering if Biden was going to be far left, you got your answer today. And earlier today, Janet Yellen. Janet Yellen is the former chair of the Federal Reserve, and she will now be the Treasury Secretary. So there was some discussion about Elizabeth Warren getting it. The people on the left want Elizabeth Warren in that seat. That did not happen. And I think you're seeing what Biden is. As much as Trump tried to push this, he's far left. And there are people in the Democratic side that are pushing a far left agenda. There's no question about it. But we're seeing that Biden's not that guy. Biden's history is bipartisanship. Biden's history is working with Republicans. Biden's history, he has consistently been in the middle on many of these issues. He's been on the wrong side of some issues, no question. but that's in context and throughout history. That's fine. It happens. But in general, he's known for working with both sides. And we're seeing that. Janet Yellen is absolutely a safe pick. Janet Yellen is someone who understands finance, understands economics, doesn't seem agenda driven. She's more dovish, more positive about the future, but she's not someone who's going to push massive financial reforms that favor the social nets and social ideas that you see from AOC or Elizabeth Warren. Well, in fairness, I don't want to put Elizabeth Warren and AOC in the same category. Elizabeth Warren is smart. She's probably one of the smartest people to have run for president, but a terrible job at selling her ideas. Just an awful marketer. And she kind of yells at big business, but it doesn't work. And she does a terrible job selling those ideas. Some make sense, but just an awful public relations marketing person. But she's brilliant. No question, she's brilliant. AOC, I don't put in that category. I have less than favorable viewpoint about AOC and some of the crazy plans she's put forward. But you're getting an indication of the way Biden is going to govern. And that's a good sign if you're someone who sits in this position of let's bring the country together. You know, if you give this guy a chance, you're going to get a moderate. You're not going to get massive overhaul, and you're not going to get massive giveaways, and you're not going to get many of the things the far left wants. That puts him in jeopardy. You know, is this somebody who will be reelected or even run for reelection? We don't know. Will this affect what happens 2 years from now? And it looks like Republicans may have momentum in the House. We don't know. But, and you have to kind of keep this Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren left group happy the same way Republicans have to keep the far right happy. Both sides are being held hostage by these groups. But Biden getting in, very much so on the hatred of Donald Trump, the initial signs are he's a moderate, and he's been a moderate his whole life, and he will continue to govern in a moderate manner. So that was a good thing if you are concerned with that going forward, and I am. You know, part of my hope was that after the election we had an answer and we can move forward either way, and I think we have a guy that can do that. Is he in good health? I don't know the answer to that question. I see some red flags too, but the way he's going to govern, putting Janet Yellen in that seat when the left was yelling for a more progressive, is very smart and a moderate leader as far as I'm concerned. So that's a good sign for people. We want to talk about a little bit about what's going on in town in Brantford. And if you're not watching from Brantford, some of the stuff you may not understand. I'll talk about it in a little more detail and give you some of the history of it. But there has been, we know we have some people in town that are, for lack of a better word, a little bit off the rocker, right? Go to every meeting. They've driven trucks around town. They put signs up and they get 5 or 6 followers to jump on their little bandwagon. There's nothing significant of substance, but that fight and that show and that circus is the end goal. They're not looking to do anything good for the town. They're just looking for, I don't know, whatever hole they're filling, it's filled by getting attention. And so for the most part, since Jamie Cosgrove has taken over, that war that was happening between the same people and Unc DeRoss, the previous first selectman, ended because Jamie doesn't give into it. And where there's merit to an argument, you give it some time, but there isn't merit to an argument. Everything's a conspiracy theory and everything is corruption and everything is lies. And they write letters to the state saying investigate the town, and this is just what they do. And most people ignore that. In general, the general population doesn't care. This is the guy who put up signs all over town, and he has 4 or 5 people that go with him to meetings. By the way, these are also people who have posted some of the most disgusting, inappropriate things on social media. They're people who have lost their jobs working in town because of things they've done and posted on social media. We're not talking about the high-level quality people here. They generally don't understand issues, but they don't care. The getting the attention and feeding off each other is their end game. But sometimes this group will start something, and for whatever political reasons or what have you, or people don't fully understand the issue, they jump onto it. So one of the things that came out within all the conspiracy theory crap was this idea that there should be a master plan for the Tabor property. Now, to those that may know what the Tabor is, or even who don't, we'll give you a little refresher. When Unc DeRoss was in office, the Tabor property is over by Tabor Church, and it connects that area to Pine Orchard. It's 20-something acres of essentially not great property. And there was a plan in the past to build housing on that property. And initially, the town, Unctor-Ross, was for it. It was basically senior housing with bedrooms and bathrooms on the first level, so they didn't have to go upstairs. I forgot how many units were going to go in there. There was generally favorable belief on it from the town. Then at some point, the applicant came in and said, we want to do some affordable housing in there. And then the Democrats who were in charge went batshit crazy. They fought it like crazy. They went nuts. It's funny. Some of the people who now are fighting for affordable housing at Parkside were very vocally against this project at the time. In any event, the town rejects it. They vote to take it by eminent domain. It goes to court. Between the payments they had to lose, the town loses the court case. Over about $19.5 to $20 million was blown on either legal fees or acquisition costs or what have you on this property. They tried to spin it as some sort of win. It was never a win. It was $20 million instead of 30 because the court took out the developer as part of the decision based on an option, which is a long story. I won't get into that. Soon after, when they took the property, took it under this premise that the town was going to use it for town functions, either ball fields or public works facilities or what have you. So a committee is formed, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, whatever, to look at properties where public works can go under Unctor-Ross. And it was no real shock to anybody that they decided it should go at Tabor. So that's it. What a surprise. Unc puts a committee together. They put it. Now, the individuals on that committee, I think, were good people. But as I looked at their study, it seemed completely out of whack that they would go to the Tabor property. Remember, there was no utilities on it. There was no electric, no plumbing, no roads, no infrastructure built. And then you took a residential area you're going to start moving trucks in and out of. It made no sense. In any event, Jamie Cosgrove wins as people fight against putting public works at Tabor, among other things. And one of his first moves, his first selectman, is to say, we're not putting public works on the Tabor property. And his words, I will tell you this, is that as long as he's in office, nothing of substance will go on the Tabor property. And he's kept his word. What we have on the Tabor property now is, Chet's Pond was named. It was cleaned up a little bit. We have a labyrinth, which you can walk. We have a solar farm, which brings energy to the town. We have part of the Greenway Trail. And so this same group, same people who are putting signs up around town and going to every meeting and trying to hijack meetings are saying there's no master plan and anything can go there and it's wrong and it's terrible and it's lack of leadership. And so the reason we bring this up is to understand went to the RTM, and the RTM passed this resolution to send it to the Board of Selectmen. Now, I don't know what the Board of Selectmen is going to do. We have 3 board members of the board members, and we have Jamie, and we have Ms. Selectman Higgins and Selectman Dunbar. And this idea to create a committee or to create some sort of master plan for that property is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. Anybody who lives in that area should be very, very much against this. I'm going to explain why. When you create a plan and you have people sit down and say, what do we want there? What do we not want there? For the most part, we want nothing there. Leave it as is. We don't want ball fields. It's not the end of the world if it's ball fields. We don't want that. But we definitely don't want a public works facility. We don't want to develop it. We want to leave it as is. That's the best thing that can happen to that property. When you create a plan, forever there is a record showing that you discussed development, potentially, that you discussed putting town functions there. And you have paperwork when some developer comes in and says, well, they discussed it before. It was approved before for this. Remember, that development at Tabor was approved for housing. It was going to be done. We know this because if it wasn't going to be done, there was been no need to take it by eminent domain. The town acted quickly to take it, knowing it was okay for development. You do not put a plan out there that says that. You don't do it. It will kill you legally. And people are falling for this bullshit that these morons are coming to this meeting and yelling, we don't have a plan. Not having a plan for that property is the right thing to do. Because the only thing that should go there is passive usage. Trails, labyrinths, more solar farms. You don't want anything functional to go there. You don't want development to go there. Because that's when somebody says, wait a minute, we have to acquire this and we have to do something with it. And that's the nonsense politics that will come up forever. And this is what happens. These crazy things go to the town. And on the RTM, somebody says, wow, this is a good idea. And they buy into the crap that's being spewed. Oh my God, there's no plan. We're not looking forward. And some Democrat says, you know what? We do need a plan. And this administration isn't planning properly, which is nonsense. We need to push this forward. And then a couple little cheerleaders jump on. And then people are like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. I don't want to vote against that. So let's vote for that. If this goes to the Board of Selectmen, which it will, the right answer is we're not doing anything on that property. We're not studying doing anything on that property. There's another trail, fine. We're not going to look at what a master plan is for an open space property right now. And this is where towns get in trouble. And this is where towns like Brantford have gotten in trouble before. Don't let crazy people get in your head. Don't let crazy people using bumper sticker slogans, we should have a plan, let that fester. No. Talk to other people. Does it make sense? Is it intelligent? Remember, could that property be developed? Yes. Did the town spend a lot of money for that property under absolute false pretenses and absolute false information? Yes, they did. But we have it now. And for those neighborhoods, for the Pine Orchard neighborhood that borders one side, and for the Indian Neck neighborhood that borders the other, no plan, no discussion group, no more bunch of public hearings. They sound good, right? They sound like it's transparent. It's stupid. It's nonsense. It's a small group of people trying to cause issues for the administration. And they tried to cause issues for the previous administration and the previous administration and the previous. That's what they do. But when you have elected officials start buying into this shit, nothing good happens. It's all bad. If you're a resident of the Indian Neck neighborhood, tell Jamie Cosgrove, tell Ray Dunbar, tell Selectman Higgins, no thank you on that study. I don't want to have the study. Because what happens when you have a public hearing for a study? The developers show up. Somebody wants to put this there, they show up. Somebody wants fields there, they show up. All the other groups that want to do something on that property, they show up. Why would you open that door? And to pretend not having a study on every single acre that we have is a bad thing is nonsense. We have property in town that we don't have a property management study on or future planning study on. Don't buy into the shit. The same people pushing this are the people who are putting up nasty signs about everybody all over town. The same people pushing this were the people who were writing homophobic, disgusting things on social media. Those are the same people pushing this nonsense. And you have some of the same people who are fighting Parkside, and that's the most disgusting, ridiculous fight over on both sides, by the way. Just a ridiculous argument and a ridiculous fight. It'll play out in court, and let it. The town may win, town may lose, whatever. What happens, happens. That's the system we have. But we have some crazy people going to meetings, yelling things that are inappropriate, disgusting, and wrong. And that's not a problem until elected officials start buying into it. When Cosgrove got in office, it was about, we're not going to let somebody push something to that property. We're not going to develop that property. The second thing it was not letting the Wayne Cooks of the world, these people yelling slanderous lies, false information constantly. Their rights are being violated constantly. They're not allowed to speak for a half hour at meetings. Oh, God, help us all. Jamie is limiting them to 3 minutes. He won't let them take over the screen. Oh, that's just awful. Nobody wants to hear it. And by the way, this is coming from somebody who actually gave legitimacy to previous Wayne Cook arguments when they were legitimate. When he complained about his tax rate being changed for political purposes on his property, nobody wrote about it anywhere near the amount that I did. And I want to tell you, if anybody else wrote about it, it was after I did, and they got most of their information from me. This is 8-9 years ago. On the Costco, I wrote all the articles on Costco. Everything they're running around about, talking about Costco and it was wrong and inland wetlands was wrong. And all, I wrote the articles. I did the research. So I've taken the issues that are being raised and looked at the facts. And when they were legitimate, I wrote about them. I gave legitimacy to even sometimes crazy people if the idea was right. In this case, the ideas are wrong. And they will hurt the town and they will hurt that neighborhood horribly. Why would you open up the door to that discussion? Leave it as it is. And I urge you, if you're a resident of Indian Neck, call them and say, no study. Leave it as it is. If the trail wants to expand their trail, great. Who cares? Want another labyrinth in there? Do it. Solar farm? Fine. Put trucks in there? No. Development? No. We don't want any part of that. And if you put a study saying we don't want any development there, the affordable housing people will come in and say, clearly they're fighting affordable housing. Clearly they're fighting getting anything. They have all this open property, which has been approved in the past for development. They're actively fighting affordable housing, and you know that means we're racist. If you're fighting affordable housing, you're racist. Why would you have a document that said that in a plan? It makes no sense. So this is where crazy people that we know are crazy, that have done insane and making absurd statements over and over and over again. I saw yesterday, somebody sent me a letter that they're sending to the state because they were not being allowed to take over the screen on Zoom. Really? Their rights are being violated. They can't speak. Their First Amendment rights are being violated. They're being limited to 3 minutes, so their First Amendment rights are being violated. People want to take over the meetings. These meetings are hours longer than they need to be because you have individuals there who have no sense whatsoever or don't care about the town. There's nothing there caring about the town. They care about their ego. This is, for many of them, their social lives. They look forward to those meetings and taking over those meetings. And I know, and I'm not going to mention names, I know some Democrats on the other side look at this and say, we could jump on some of this stuff, or we can go after Jamie on some of this stuff. Don't do it. Jumping in with that group isn't helping you. Jumping in with people who start social media pages that are homophobic and disgusting and comments that are left up that are awful, awful comments. And by the way, a lot of them are about me. Like sex acts about me. And First Selectman and Ray Ingraham and other people in town that they don't like. The Planning and Zoning Commission. Anybody they don't like who are acting in good faith and doing a good job, they'll call every name in the book. To the Democrats and to the Republicans on the RTM that are giving any credence to this stuff, get out of it. Find other attacks. You're going to have to, right? It's an election year next year. You're going to go after Jamie somehow, some way. I get it. Find something else. Don't throw your lot in with that crazy group of people. And God help you if you're in the Indian Neck area, and I am, and you want to not see development at that property, and you want to see what's happening remain. You know, the tree huggers, the people who are for the trails and the solar farms, I'm all with you. I will take passive stuff on that property all day long. Jamie, keep doing what you're doing on Tabor. That's what we want. We don't want other development. And the last thing you need is a series of public hearings and people put on that body to over-politicize this stupid issue and open the door the next time somebody comes in with affordable housing and saying, no, this town is clearly against affordable housing. They took open space they had that had previously been approved for housing, and they publicly stated they want no part of it. Why would you ever do that? That's just dumb. This is a good example of people that will, in general, will be misled. People are going to go door to door saying, we need a plan at Tabor. We need to protect Tabor. We need to make sure, blah, blah. Bullshit. Don't put anything in writing on Tabor. You have a guy in office now who's protected it. Don't stop and undo a good thing because some crazy people have gone to meeting after meeting after meeting and yelled bumper sticker politics and insulted and yelled and screamed. And then some elected officials jumped in and bought into the bullshit and the rhetoric. Don't do it. It will hurt the town. And I'm someone who has given credence to those claims in the past that were accurate. This one isn't. Doesn't make any sense. So that being said, so often we talk about national or state, and there are times that we have to go back to local because this is my town, and Brantford. Most of our viewers right now are still from Brantford. This is an issue that affects our neighborhoods. And it is so easy in today's political climate to jump into bullshit, to jump into, wow, that makes sense. Yeah. Wow, that's, I always go back to that gay argument. I remember in school, in one of the debates, somebody said this, and I was raised a Jehovah's Witness and not for gay marriage, although we weren't involved politically at the time. I remember somebody saying, God made Adam and Eve and not Adam and Steve. And I remember thinking to myself, no matter where I stand, that's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Like, that's your political argument. You have a property right now at Tabor that is managed well. There's passive recreation there. It makes sense. Then suddenly someone comes along, we have no plan for Tabor. Why would you mess with a good thing? Why would you introduce a new committee to make a plan, to have public hearings, to bring in developers, to bring in other people to put things there and say, all right, now we have something in writing? Because if you say we're going to develop it, you'll start World War III. If you say you're not going to develop it, you give fodder to the people on the other side who are saying, oh, we're racist and we're against affordable housing. You can't win doing it. It sounds good on a bumper sticker. We need a master plan. It sounds good for those people trying to rile people up, trying to make up bullshit. Oh my God, we need a master plan. Nothing good about it. It's stupid. So if you're in the Indian Neck, don't fall prey to the Wayne Cooks of the world. They don't give a shit about the town. They don't give a shit about you. They give a shit about their ego and yelling as loud as they can because that's all they got going on in their lives. Their self-worth is measured by how loud they can get at meetings and how annoying they can get to the rest of the people in town. That's their self-worth. In this conversation, we're looking at the town. Is Indian Neck served by doing this? No. If you want your voice heard, let Jamie Cosgrove, let Ray Dunbar, and let Selectman Higgins know that. Don't move forward on this stuff. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's move on to other issues in town. Let's finish that school. Let's get the animal shelter done. Let's get the productive projects moving forward. Okay, that's it for today. It's we actually did a half hour. I didn't know if I had enough material for a half hour, but I guess when I start talking, I start talking. So, and I just got a few texts saying they want to send ornaments. If you want to send ornaments, you're welcome to. I'm usually around town. You can, give me a call and meet up, and we'll grab a cup of coffee at Hornet's Nest or something. Any ornaments that are not religious. Don't give me Jesus stuff. It's just not going to work. But something funny, I'll do. Whatever. I don't know. But guys, thanks for joining me again today, and thank you for all the support. Not a day goes by that someone doesn't stop me. And just remember something: if I've never seen you or met you, let me know that. There's so many people with masks coming up saying hi, Steve, and I want to say hi to everybody, but I'll sit and talk to you, but just tell me how I know you. It's helpful. So on that note, guys, I'll see you tomorrow at 4:30. I hope you all have a great night. I will see you tomorrow, 4 o'clock. Talk to you guys.